Okay, so college football playoff. The biggest obstacle has been actually we're really close right now. We're really close to a plus one. Last year, the SEC, with support from the ACC, they put out a proposal to all the other conferences in the BCS, and they said, okay, we want to have a plus one system. That's essentially a Culture Bowl Final Four. You'd have the four BCS games. Uh, Two of those games we would rotate every year. They would be they'd be semifinals of one versus four, two versus three. The other two sites would the other two games would just they remain as the regular bowl site. Just take BCS regular. Just take the teams in, and then they'd have a title game at one of the other non-semifinal sites a little over a week later. That'd be the BCS title game. We were very close to that. Actually, it was proposed last spring. But the biggest obstacle was the Big Ten, and the Pac-10. And the Rose Bowl. They felt like they had too much good of a tradition going. They did not want to risk losing that and losing that tradition. Um, I think it's fine. The Rose Bowl, they have a lot of tradition there, and I don't see. I can see why they'd be concerned about losing it, but I I think that's an obstacle that we're just gonna have to put aside if we really want to get this college football playoff thing to work. If the Rose Bowl and the Big Ten, the Pac-10 don't want to join, I say, forget them. What they should do is they should take the Cotton Bowl. It should have the same proposal out and have the Cotton Bowl replace it. The Cotton Bowl, it's one of the oldest bowls historically, and some of the best tradition. It lost a lot of it when the Southwest Conference folded, but currently it takes the second best. He has the second picks in I think for both the SEC and the Big 12. Um, its problem has been that it's in Dallas, and Dallas can be cold in January. They don't want to play an outdoor cold game, a BCS. Want that to be a BCS game. Um, that should not be a problem anymore. As of next year, for the 2009-2010 Cotton Bowl, it's going to be played at the new Dallas Cowboys stadium, and I believe it has a retractable roof, so they can, if it's cold out, they can just close that dome up, and they can have that game. It'll be just fine. So yeah, I just say they should say forget the Rose Bowl and just have the Cotton Bowl be the fourth game in the BCS. As for what the Rose Bowl and the Big Ten and the Pac-10 can do, the Big Ten and the Pac-10 they can keep their agreement with the Rose Bowl and decide not to let their teams go into the BCS, uh, into the plus one in the college football Final Four essentially, and eventually the recruiting is going to suffer because you know they're not going to be considered the fair champion if you have a good season. And let's face it, the Rose Bowl. If there's a 14 playoff, the Rose Bowl's not included, the Rose Bowl team won't be able to say that they have a shot at the national title. So I think eventually what you'll have is the they'll have the Big Ten, the Pac-10 coaches will be like, all right, they'll talk to the commissioners and be like, all right, listen, thank you, we love the Rose Bowl, but we're in the top four, and we'd love to have a shot at the title. So can we please go into another BCS game? And I think eventually, the I could see Pete Carroll definitely wanting to do that. I'm considering they've played and won so many Rose Bowls. It makes me sick, but yeah, I really hate USC. But anyway, they'd want to go to they'd want to be able to play in that tournament. Um, so they'd say, thank you Rose Bowl, but we're gonna move on. And I don't think the Rose Bowl's gonna suffer, because essentially that's been the system now. Is if the Rose Bowl doesn't host the national championship, and you'll have the Big Ten and the Pac-10 team is in the title game, Um, they'll take another team. It can either be another the second best team in one of those two conferences, or make another at large. Rose Bowl's been fine killing that tradition to move on and take other teams. I don't see why they wouldn't have any problem with that. I think the Rose Bowl it can survive on its own. They had before the BCS they had a bowl alliance where the Rose Bowl wasn't included, and it survived. It played had its own TV contract, and even today it has its own independent TV contract. The rest of the BCS games are on Fox, and the Rose Bowl's on ABC. So I think the Rose Bowl would be just fine not being part of that tournament. And if they aren't fine, eventually they're gonna want to get on board. So yeah, I think that's the closest thing we'll have, and I think that's what they should do. If we really want to see something happen, if the SEC, if more of these teams get screwed, uh, if we have a case like we had uh, Georgia, I guess in 2007, feel like they got screwed, and they'll be pushing for something like that. Or if we have these teams keep getting screwed, eventually it's gonna happen. And I think legislature is now getting involved. You have Barack Obama wanting to push a playoff, and I guess there's been lawmakers all over the country. I know one in Utah, a few in Texas. They're co-sponsoring bills. I saw an interview with this guy from Hawaii was sponsoring a bill in Congress. So who knows if they might find that the BCS won't legally exist anymore. So this they may eventually just have to go to this. So yeah, that's exact. I mean, that's right now. I see that's the closest thing we have right now is if we have a +1 system, and if the Rose Bowl, the Big Ten, the Pac-10, if they don't want to do it, fine. We don't need them. We can just have the Cotton Bowl. It's a great historic game, and just continue this, and we'll have some great football. All right. Thank you for paying attention. Spread the word, and I think that's what's gonna happen. And I hope it happens because that'd be awesome.